All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Friday, July 11, 2014, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules, Zori, and Lady Pitbull here on UCY.TV. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. How about you?
I'm awesome.
You are.
I'm getting there.
So we've got an awesome and a getting awesome.
And I slept 12 hours yesterday.
That's
No wonder
totally
you sound
awesome.
Yeah, I'm still congested, but oh my God, it was like 1 o'clock. I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore, so I went upstairs, and then it was like 5 o'clock, and my mother came and took my munchkin for the weekend.
Yeah.
And then it was like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, all right, everybody's on air, and then the next thing I knew was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, holy shit, how'd that happen?
That's great, though. I bet you feel better.
I feel pretty good, yeah. I actually had an afternoon at like 1 a.m. for a few hours and then crashed back out just long enough to get perky again.
That's totally awesome.
Yeah, we need that sleep.
Absolutely.
And coffee.
Yeah, coffee is...
Oh, yeah, what did you just put in your coffee there, Zori?
Oh, my homemade coconut cream that I made yesterday. Oh, it makes it so dreamy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, everything's kind of awesome this morning.
It's an awesome Friday.
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't assessed it far enough yet. I'm only about 6 minutes into being awake, so...
Well,
Here's something I found out about coffee drinkers, though. Coffee offers protection against Parkinson's disease. Had you heard that?
Yeah, actually, if you do some digging about coffee helps with a lot of things.
Yeah, it does.
I was just reading in one of those scientific papers for the turmeric and one of the many cancer treatments that it's effective for, that coffee actually has been shown to accelerate the beneficial effects of the turmeric when trying to get it into the tumor.
Wow.
And I was wondering if that's the case. I mean, you know, just by drinking coffee that it has a profound effect when you're doing it with other things. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder what it does when you have coffee in a cigarette. You know, because you always crave it if you're smoking. Or coffee and somebody, you know, does some illegal substances. Does it cause you to absorb the chemicals better?
Well, I don't know.
gosh.
It seems to kick it in, you know. I mean, like, coffee kicks in awakeness.
All I can say is that, honestly, the first cup of coffee is not the first cup of coffee without the first smoke. And the first smoke is nothing without the first cup of coffee. So
It's true.
I wonder if that does not apply across the spectrum for all substances.
well, you may have come up with another $1 million idea.
Oh, that was in
it.
That was
Well,
in
look at everything
a
that has
cancer document.
Really?
That was, you know, they were looking at the effectiveness of the treatment, and they discovered that when doing it with caffeine, it actually was way more effective.
Interesting.
Well, caffeine's good for headaches, too, a lot of times. Caffeine's in a lot of different things, if you really look close. I mean, so it would only figure out that it does have some effect.
Right.
Wow, how would you combine caffeine and tobacco together? That'd be interesting.
Well, I got my caffeine, and now I've had about 6 sips, and now I feel like a smoke.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
I mean, together, like smoking coffee. I mean, that's a
You could have
crazy
tobacco-infused coffee beans.
idea. Ooh, oh my goodness.
I don't know. How would you do that?
I don't know. That's
You
crazy.
need a special machine.
Yeah, talk about GMO.
I'm just looking through the headlines. We just had a new pass about 10 minutes ago. And look at U.S. officials are blaming the Chinese nationals for cyber attacks. Wow, go figure that one out. You know, too, I also heard that that is not a done deal in Wall Street yet with Chertoff and Keith Alexander. I guess Wall Street is still scoffing at the $1 million a month paycheck that Alexander is asking for.
Month?
Yeah, a month. That was in the story we read yesterday. Or $1 million a month is what he's asking. They were looking to hire them to come in and help with cyber protection because, there's all these hackers, and now they're afraid that they're going to attack the entire banking system and bring all of our balances to zero. So we need to have the former head of the NSA and the former head of the Department of Homeland Security working together with Wall Street to secure their systems. Wink,
That's
wink.
right. They're going to secure their systems.
Wink, wink. But Keith Alexander wants $1 million a month.
Nobody's worth that much.
No shit. But, here's what I'm thinking. I put on a thinking cap about this yesterday. Think about this. Chertoff and Alexander probably know all the deep, dirty, dark secrets of every one of those assholes on Wall Street.
That's true.
And so guess what? Hey, you are going to hire us for $1 million a month to protect against the cyber attack criminals. They're going to take all of your bank accounts to zero, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it
Wall
works.
Street, who doesn't pay any taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wall Street that we bailed out from the federal government, right? I'm telling you, I think they got them by the panties.
Yup, I would say so. That's Chertoff for you.
Yeah, I think they got him by the panties. So
King of
there's
KGB.
been nothing that's been moved forward yet, I don't believe. But you know what? I am not going to be surprised once they get hired and Keith Alexander's getting his $1 million a month.
Wow. That's unreal.
It is pretty unreal.
But blackmail is the name of the game, now that they have all this surveillance. I mean, who can't they blackmail?
Mm-hmm.
By the short and curlies.
The short and curlies and their pretty little underpants.
There's the underpants gnomes right there.
And he's got face on him, too.
Here's something sort of related. It says, press traveling with Kerry in China have bank accounts hacked.
I've seen that.
What, the press with Kerry?
Yeah.
Got their bank accounts hacked.
Yeah, man.
No.
I mean, we're just talking about this.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe that somebody now wants to point to that. You watch.
You know it. They're all in China right now, apparently.
Oh, and then I just saw that clip about the Chinese or the nationals are the hackers. Uh-oh.
Right. This is definitely, you see anything
Ramping up.
Here, yeah. This isn't an accident. Oh my goodness. They're just
Can you read that? And I'll see. I just refreshed and I don't know where I'll have to find that article again.
Here, hang on, let me oh, you bastard. Alright, I'm gonna put this in to here so you can have it. It's from the Weekly Standard. Agency France Press State Department correspondent Joe Biddle is claiming on Twitter that members of the media traveling with Secretary of State John Kerry to China have had their bank accounts hacked. Her tweet reads, seems many members of the press pool traveling with Secretary Kerry in China have had their bank accounts hacked.
It's crazy.
It is. It's funny as hell. Oh, I'm not going to read her little thingies. Oh, I guess that's all it is her little posts.
They don't say what they did with it? I mean, like, kick their balance to zero or nothing?
No. It says other reporters are reacting with dismay or outrage, and then the same lady posts another one saying, seems many members of the press pool had their bank accounts hacked, and then somebody else said a lot, wow, that's low. I don't know, this is all just like Twitter.
Kind of weird.
Yeah,
What would be the reasoning behind that? And then not give no specifics.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you're a reporter and you're posting public information going, oh, the humanity, you'll probably be the next target.
Right.
I wouldn't be saying that too publicly. Yeah, here.
True.
This might actually be the story. Hold on. Let me kill my player. Oh, I think it's off.
That's it for that. I mean, it doesn't say too much. I bet you that's going to be pushed right under the rug.
Well, I got a clip. Let me see what if it says any more. Because, yeah, I'm telling you, that whole banking thing, they've been talking about doing that for a long time. Oh, my God. I don't know why. There we go again. My Skype almost just crashed. When I tried
gosh.
All right. U.S. blames Chinese nationals for cyber attacks. And maybe this is what we were talking about. Maybe not. Maybe it's something else. Fresh off the presses. No views yet.
And for the second time in 2 days, U.S. officials are blaming China this morning for a cybersecurity attack. This time, an alleged hacker is under arrest. Bob Bohr is in Washington, where officials say the suspect targeted major American defense contractors. Bob, good morning.
Good morning. Well, this is another high-profile case of alleged economic espionage. A Chinese national is now being held in Canada on U.S. charges that he unlawfully accessed computer systems of major U.S.-based aviation manufacturers, including Boeing. The suspect, Su Bin, also goes by the name of Stephen Subin, was arrested 2 weeks ago near Vancouver, British Columbia. Officials say he likely will be extradited to Los Angeles. Su, who lives in Canada, operates a Chinese aviation company called LoadTech. In a 50-page criminal complaint, the U.S. Justice Department alleges that Su, working with two uncharged co-conspirators in China, stole a large quantity of information from defense contractors about dozens of U.S. military projects. Some of what was stolen was then offered for sale to competitors in China, but we don't know if any of the stolen information was actually sold there. Among other things, Su now is accused of ripping off computer files concerning Boeing C-17 military aircraft, and also documents relating to the F-22 and F-35 fighters. U.S. prosecutors say this alleged scheme played out over a 4-year period between 2009 and 2013. Now, Su has been charged with one kind of conspiracy to gain access to protected computers with the intent to defraud. His arrest comes, by the way, as the Obama administration is promising a crackdown on cyber theft. That's a problem, Nora, that costs U.S. companies tens of billions of dollars a year.
Cyber criminals are everywhere.
Is that weird how the guy only got one count against him?
Yeah, for hacking into
that's weird.
Boeing and other military contractors, I would say that they'd be coming after him full bore.
You'd think there'd be multiple counts in multiple areas. I mean, come on, what the hell? One count? It's ridiculous. It sounds stinky to me.
It is stinky. Stinkier than than a fish laying in the sun for 3 days.
Yeah. Not freaking
good. I watched a few videos last night on the hacking and the, we have no backup at all for our internet. One guy was saying, if the internet goes down, there's no second choice or nothing put up, in preparedness, I guess, or anything.
If anyone remembers from the very first times I ever was on the radio, that was one of my biggest preaches, is just taking my experience in all the years in engineering and pointing out to people that backups are probably one of the most important things. And since the internet is a distributed network, every single one of us is responsible for whatever content we've put on the internet. You might have an internet service provider that's doing, nightly backups. But if there was a large EMP or something in that nature, especially those of us who have large amounts of documents or videos, it is up to each and every one of us to make sure that we have some sort of Faraday cage, some sort of backup that is going to be able to withstand an electromagnetic pulse. It would be like the loss of the Library of Alexandria, except this time way bigger.
Yeah, and then too, also, more and more airlines, your water company, and everything is relying on the internet, too.
That's what I'm saying. It's the whole world now, and nobody is really paying attention to. You can go out to the Wayback Machine. It's a section of Google that even if a website is long gone, they have a lot of it archived. But on the other hand, not everything is archived. I mean, I can go to the way back and look at one of the old websites I did, but it's not every day of the week. There's not a snapshot. They take little samples of things. But yeah, it should be up to every single one of us to think about preparedness. What happens when the grid goes down? And one of the things that I had been working on for a couple of years was any of my prepping stuff, like important things that I would want to know, like how to cure meat or things of that nature that I might not do every day and I don't know how to do. I was printing that stuff out. I had a 3-ring binder with some dividers in it for categories, and I actually was 3-hole punching it and making myself a hard copy of any of that stuff that, after the days of the internet, things that you might need to know.
Right, I have one of those too. I have it in a file, categorized, but because you're not going to remember all this stuff, like with my canning even, I forget what processing time for this or that, and it's important to have that.
Yeah, and especially if it's going to be something that you will be using to maintain your livelihood. Yes.
I agree.
Yeah. So
we've been doing that here big time, and that's a great idea. I mean, write it all down, get it all somehow documented.
I got in the habit of doing it back when it was just like DOS, and you didn't have videos to back up to watch and stuff. I printed up. I have stuff going back to 93 or 92 that they're over there in that file. So yeah, it is an individual responsibility, but like airlines and stuff like that, they really should be backing up, because I don't know, but it was a really interesting video.
Well,
an EMP could cause planes to fall from the skies.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I don't know what we're talking about in regards to airlines and what data they're backing up, but I would think like banks would probably be even more important than airlines. Airlines, though, have a big vulnerability in that, yes, they are not Faraday caged. So in the event that there ever is massive EMP, either from solar means or from a nuke being detonated just above the atmosphere, that was one of the things that they talked about, is that these planes are going to fall right out of the sky.
Yeah.
Some of the military aircraft they have been working on now, making the cockpit so it could withstand an EMP. But I don't think most of the commercial airlines they've done that to. That actually has been a big point of concern for a long time. But the data, like the banking system data, now I installed a lot of networks in banks. That was something that was one of our verticals for the company that I worked for when I was an engineer. And I'm going to tell you, they're just as dopey as any of the corporations out there.
Exactly.
I know.
And maybe even dopier so. When I first started my career, first job out of college, was working in a banking operations center in the Northeast. So we didn't deal with any money, but we were the central location for all the branches. We were where all the collateral files went, and that was how I got into computers, was when they installed their very first network that no one knew anything about, And I have to say that they were pretty dopey. Like, no clue. None. And when then, years later, installing networks into banks, what's SSL? That was the big question back in the 90s, early 2000s. What's SSL? They didn't understand. There was no encryption on anything. It was all open wire. A hacker could have easily tapped a line and had sniffed all the data. So then, of course, they had to come up with some new federal laws. Graham-Billy Leach Act, I think it was called, and that required the SSL encryption. That at least encrypted, but now we know, from all these leaks that encryption has never been secure.
Wow.
From the prying eyes of the NSA.
Man, it just seems like it's the same shit with them leaving all that. What was that stuff they left in the closet? And they found it, the anthrax or whatever. It's like
smallpox, yeah.
Yeah, smallpox. They just leave it all open sourced. You know what I mean?
Well, no, they do, for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Now they need it.
Right,
Oh,
exactly. There it is.
It's time.
Yep, it is time. It's time. They're pulling the rug out right now in slow motion.
Yeah, it is. It's slow-mo. All right, so do we do a black stay sober and drink coffee sign? Or
Yeah.
do we do a RoboCop mug?
I like RoboCop.
You like the RoboCop coffee mug, and he's got his eyes all covered? That's kind of fun.
It's Friday. People are drinking.
Yes, I don't know.
People
Too bad.
are
If I
drinking
had
because it's
time,
Friday.
I could actually cut out the 2 RoboCop mugs from the alternating angles and put them on either side of the phrase "Stay sober and drink coffee." But I can't do that and talk at the same time.
Right. Well, we could talk. I mean, there's a bunch of crap going on. I mean, there's a polar vortex coming.
Did you see that shit right over us?
Yeah.
I said to my mother yesterday, "Did you see the polar vortex in July?" She's like, "What?"
What?
I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding. What?" That's
Oh
exactly what
yeah,
I
I
said.
did see that.
It's
A
gonna
polar
get.
vortex in July. Now, wait, I just want to say, last week, in the southern tier of New York, it actually hit the 40s for the low. And it did
Wow.
not make it out of the low 70s. Like, I'm talking 73. Now, I saw to the west of us, it was pretty consistent. I think most of us were pretty cool last week, weren't we?
Yeah. It was
we're
not
here.
bad here.
And we haven't seen the 90s in a few weeks, at least.
No.
It's been cool here. So it's not a big surprise, but in mid-July, in upstate New York, for a high in the 60s and a low in the 40s, there's something wrong with that picture.
There's definitely something wrong, and apparently we're going to get it big time next week.
Wow. And what? Just a couple of days ago, it was 114 here. In fact, my tech guy, he finally made it out here. But he said he thinks it's the heat because they're having so many calls on this. But we've always had this kind of heat, so I don't know. It's just weird. They can't figure out why the internet's going in and out.
It's supposed to cool down for you guys, too.
Yeah, it's supposed to. I forget. I didn't look for it today. Yesterday, I think it only broke like 100, 103. So right now it's 75. It's supposed to be 96 today. So that's quite a drop.
Yeah, it's supposed to go into the 80s where you are.
I just
And that'll feel like a freaking cool
Winter.
down. Yeah,
I
winter,
know, we'll
yeah.
be putting on our sweaters.
a turtleneck.
Turtleneck. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
70s one.
I'm sorry?
A goofy 70s one.
Yeah. That's funny.
Here, I think I need to do the bumper sticker that says, "Dear Coffee, I love you."
Oh, that's
That
funny.
would work.
That's how I felt this morning. Now,
Me too.
There you go.
I felt my way into the kitchen to get my coffee. My eyes didn't want to wake up. My body functioning didn't want to respond correctly.
So, but if you guys don't have coffee, you get headaches, right?
No, I
I
don't.
don't get coffee. No,
I just don't
I
wake
get
up.
mean. Get the F away from me is about what you'll hear from my mouth until I've had my first cup. That happened yesterday morning. We both
Oh.
came at the coffee maker at the same point, and here's the key. If you're going to be in my way in the morning, then you better already have the coffee brewing. But if we meet at the coffee maker and I've managed to get my ass out of bed and there's not one drop of coffee in that pot, then get the F out of my way. That's how it works. And don't speak to me at all.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
You'll be rocking and crying.
Damn!
I'm not nice. Which, hey, that is exactly why before the first cup is in existence. Because I don't hide that fact. I am mean in the morning. And so that's why this show was always such a laugh. Because it's like, wow, maybe we'll just expose everybody else to Jewel and nastiness in the morning.
Give Paul a break.
Yes, exactly. So he's happy. Unless he runs into me before I get on air, then uh-oh. He knows he's got to sneak down quick, get that coffee going, and then sneak back upstairs.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
I'm not kidding.
No, you're not,
Oh, I
dude.
believe you.
Seriously.
Hey, how about a black mug and all it says is happy, happy, happy? That's a good one. That explains it.
Turn your frown into a smile.
Happy, 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 which is kind of like an oxymoron.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, go ahead. You can read about the polar vortex. I got to get this together. And then,
call it the ghost of the polar vortex, the polar vortex sequel, or the polar vortex's revenge. Meteorological pursuits may tell you that it's not a polar vortex at all. However, you choose to refer to the looming weather pattern, unseasonably chilly air that is headed for parts of northern and northeastern U.S. at the height of the summer early next week. Bearing a haunting resemblance to January's brutally cold weather pattern, a deep pool of cool air from the Gulf of Alaska will plunge into the Great Lakes early next week and then ooze eastward toward the East Coast. Of course, this is July, not January, so temperatures forecast to be roughly 10 as much as 30 degrees below average and won't have quite the same effect. But make no mistake, in parts of the Great Lakes and upper Midwest, getting dealt the chilliest air, hoodies and jeans will be required. Highs in this region could get stuck in the 50s and 60s. In the 50s and 60s, especially where there's considerable cloud cover. Nice, guys. Wednesday morning's lows may drop into the 40s over a large part of the central U.S. Remember, this is July.
Wow.
The heart chilly air mass will probably just skirt the East Coast, but temperatures are likely to be about 10 degrees below normal. Highs may struggle to reach 80 in D.C. next Tuesday and Wednesday, with widespread lows in the 50s, even 40s in the mountains. It says, note, as with any extended forecast, there's some uncertainty here, of course. If the cool air mass loses some punch, highs may still reach about 80 to 85 around DCs, with lows in the 60s rather than the 50s. Okay. The pattern may only last a few days, but will probably set some records, especially around the plains and the Great Lakes. Oh, great. Here it comes. Where water temperatures are still depressed from the frigid winter, in which ice remained on Lake Superior into June. So everybody that's up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, man, this is going to be feeling like fall up there. And I bet you're going to get like some weird premature like changes in the trees and in the colors. They're going to probably get faked out right now when they're thinking that it's fall's coming. That's crazy. Let's see, what's behind this unusual winter weather pattern is primed for the dog days of summer. A lot of it is simply chance, randomness. Yeah, right. But the Weather Underground's meteorologist Jeff Masters says Japan's typhoon Naguri is playing a role in the pattern's evolving configuration. It says the large and powerful nature of this storm has set in motion a chain reaction set of events that will dramatically alter the path of the jet stream and affect weather patterns across the entire northern hemisphere next week. Naguri will cause an acceleration of the North Pacific jet stream, straight from Fukushima, causing a large amount of warm, moist tropical air to push over the North Pacific. This will amplify a trough low pressure over Alaska, causing a ripple effect in the jet stream over western North America, where a strong ride of high pressure will develop over the midwestern U.S., where a strong trough of low pressure will form. What amazes me most about the pattern is not so much the forecast temperatures, but the uncanny similarities which in the weather patterns over North America, seen in both the heart of the winter and the heart of the summer. All the same features refer to the map at the top of this post. Sorry guys, didn't mean to read that. Apparent in January. are on the mid map. Wait, I'm sorry, guys. Apparent in January. All those weather patterns that are apparent in January are on the map in mid-July. Low pressure over the Aleutians, large hot ridge over the western U.S., a huge cold low or vortex over the Great Lakes, and the ridge over northeast Canada. All right. There's a little more here. What the hell? Alright, I'm done with that, guys.
You know, I just came across this one that really, I mean, things are just getting too nuts. I mean, it says, Australian judge says incest may no longer be a taboo.
I posted that last night. I was like, what the hell is that?
I know.
Sick whack job.
Jeez, man.
I mean, you know, I looked at that and I went, okay, I think they're going a little too far. This is just nuts. It's like pedophilia's accepted now. Incest.
Well, pedophilia, they made a sexual preference or something, didn't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These sick bastards. I'm so tired of this crap.
Or, yeah, pedophilia. They made a sexual preference. I think that I have some ideas for where they should be exercising that sexual preference. Like in a prison with a boyfriend named Bubba.
Here you go.
Right. And you know, this judge, he goes, judge in Australia says incest may no longer be a taboo, and the only reason it is criminal is potential birth abnormalities which can be solved by abortion. I mean, that's insanity. I mean, and this guy's a judge?
That is almost like, what in the hell did you just read? I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, he says, you know, the only reason that it's against the law is because of the birth defects that could occur from it. But, and like, where's the morality? I mean, you don't,
how could there be birth defects from it?
Well, abnormal, they say that, you know, because if incest breeds, you know, mental problems. That's been proven over and over.
But are we talking incest or are we talking pedophilia?
Incest. No, we're talking incest. I just said pedophilia is accepted, just like now this guy's accepting incest is not a bad thing.
Well, all throughout history, incest was not a bad thing. The reason why they made incest illegal was because of inbreeding. Mm-hmm. But I mean, go back throughout history, they typically like to keep it close.
Yeah, the royals.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
the
not
royals.
Just the royals, though. I mean, you kept it in the clan. And if you took it outside the clan, there typically was some sort of land agreement involved.
Right.
That's true, too.
Like
you know,
in Scotland, Ireland.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big deal, and you got a dowry and whatever that went along with it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
that was
true,
something that was more in Western culture. I don't know when all those laws went into effect, but I know I studied quite a bit of that just because of my studies of ancient literature and especially medieval literature. I mean, that stuff used to go on all the time.
Yeah.
But the fact that you'd be talking... The fact that you'd be talking about it now in 21st century world as something, you know, like, oh, well, the only reason we don't do it is because of birth defects is kind of
But then we have abortion, so no problem, you know, just get pregnant and kill the kid. I don't know. It's just, I don't care, it's wrong.
It's a little too close, personally.
Well, it kind of reminds me when Antonin Scalia, he went to a freaking college, I think it was around San Jose or something like that. I'm not entirely accurate on that, I know. But he actually said that orgies are a good thing. He actually told that to the freaking students there who were graduating college.
I believe Putin did, too.
Did he really?
Putin came out in defense of orgies at one point publicly. Yes, he did. I was like, no shit, dude. Running around, no shirt, bare-chested, wrestling tigers, and then you come out in defense of porn and porn parties too?
I fuck donkeys. I'm a real man.
But he wasn't promoting orgies with your sister and brother, though. So, you know. Yeah.
Cute young Russian girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not donkeys.
Oh, God.
You gotta
The ones
wonder.
that he puts on RT News. No.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about that. That's his personal pick list.
You can't get up there unless you blow me here.
Hey, no, we did not say that.
Sorry.
I guess I did. Sorry. I guess you can't unrecord that.
He did not say that. Take that back.
Alright, I took it back. Sorry.
Be careful with him, because I'm telling you.
He's gonna go
Videos.
back.
No, I'm telling you, videos of him that they have created quite a number of strikes on YouTube over the years. So be careful. They do pay attention.
Yep.
They make you take them down.
That was too funny. Oh.
So I see one of our listeners posted to the Daily Dose of WTF this morning. I want to give a shout out to Sean. This is out of the Daily Mail. Hold on, again here. Thanks, Sean. This is a good one. It gave me flashbacks to Woody Allen's Sleeper.
Oh, God.
Stem cell patient accidentally grows a nose on her back 8 years after surgeon injected tissue there to try and cure her paralysis. An unnamed woman had tissue from her nose implanted in her spine in the hope that the cells would repair nerve damage causing the paralysis. The treatment failed. The woman complained of increased pressure in the area, and then 8 years later, a 3-centimeter growth made of nasal tissue and bone appeared. Now, like we were saying yesterday, one thing we all learned from Microsoft, you don't want to be a version 1.0.
No, you don't.
Here's an example of why. Yes, early stem cell treatment equals nose growing out of your spine.
I'm laughing. I have to mute myself.
I know, this is probably pretty horrible for her, but oh my goodness.
Yeah, you know, what's that bump? Oh, it's a nose.
It's a nose. But now they will. I've seen them grow things such as noses like on your thigh, that then once it's grown, they just kind of slice it off and put it on. That's the way the new treatments are working. Or on your butt, let's say. They'll grow it someplace where, it's not so visible.
So what happens when this lady farts?
Oh, this is on her back.
Sneezes.
I know it's on her back. That's why I'm asking.
But if she sneezes,
straight up the nose.
The woman has developed a nose-like growth 8 years after stem cell treatments to cure her paralysis failed at the hospital de Agas Moniz in Lisbon, Portugal. The unnamed woman, a U.S. citizen, has tissue from her nose implanted into her spine. The doctors, why would they put tissue from her nose into her spine to get rid of her paralysis? I do not understand. I would think maybe like tissue from your liver, that is the one organ in your body that regenerates if there was anything. You know what I mean? Like, why would you pick the nose? Sure does echo of Woody Allen's Sleeper.
it does.
Doctors hoped the cells would develop into neural cells and help repair the nerve damage to the woman's spine, but the treatment failed. However, last year, 8 years after the stem cell operation, the woman, then 28, complained of increasing pain in the area. Doctors discovered a 3-centimeter long growth, which was found to be mainly nasal tissue, as well as bits of bone and nerve branches that had not connected with the spinal nerves. Wow, that's pretty frightening. Neurosurgeon Brian DeLuey from the University of Iowa Hospital and Clinics in Iowa City, who removed the growth, said it was benign, but was secreting a, quote, secreting a thick, copious mucus-like material on the boat, which was probably why it was painful on her spine. Jean Peduzzi Nelson, a stem cell researcher at Wayne University in Detroit, Michigan, who advised the team who conducted the surgical technique, which had been tested on rodents, said that most of the recipients of the nasal tissue who received the right kind of rehabilitation after their surgery experienced movement, so they're not quite sure why this didn't work. She told New Scientist, quote, "I am saddened to learn of this adverse event. However, the incidence of this problem is less than 1%. In 2010, the Lisbon researchers..." Oh my God, I have to drop this. There's a video of of a nose in a petri dish. I need to drop this and see if Pigmine can get this video.
Oh my God, dude. I can't read the chat room right now. They're just going off in there, dude.
We're going to play the video. In 2010, the Lisbon researchers published the results using this method on 20 people paralyzed at various locations in their spine. 11 of them experienced some recovery of movement or sensation. One person's paralysis got worse. One developed meningitis, and 4 others experienced minor adverse events, in parentheses, like a nose growing out of their spine. It doesn't really say that, but I'm wondering if this is included in one of the adverse events. Stem cells, or master cells, are capable of turning into other types of cells, so they are widely seen as a repair kit for the body. Here's what I don't get, and maybe 8 years ago they didn't have that technology yet, but it is my understanding now that, going back into the years of, what's his name that was paralyzed, Superman, that died?
Oh,
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah, Christopher Reeves. Yeah. When we had Reagan as president and Reeves got injured, if you remember, stem cell research was banned because it was using aborted fetuses, and years later, Nancy Reagan was begging them to make it legal to save her husband. So
I remember that.
There was some sick irony there, and Christopher Reeves died, and he never regained. They never, he might have been going overseas, because overseas they were still doing a lot of stem cell research, but in this country it basically had been stopped because of the aborted fetal tissue. And it is my understanding now that they have discovered a way to take something as simple as skin cells and revert them back to the indigenous stem cells that can be turned into anything.
Wow.
That's like totally Frankenstein, man.
Well, but the good news is that you can use your own tissue, so there's a lot less chance of rejection.
Rejection, right?
Yeah. And so I guess back 8 years ago, maybe still don't understand why they were using nose tissue to try and make you unparalyzed.
That is bizarre.
Doesn't make sense to me.
No.
The very bottom here, it says, while often championed as future of medicine, stem cells' ability to metamorphose and increase carries an inherent danger, namely when they are implanted into a person, they could turn into dangerous cancer cells. And that is always the one caution that they've been talking about, is because you're getting these cells to grow into other things, and that is exactly what cancer does. It grows, and it grows out of control. And yeah, there was this dude, I remember, Pigmine had the video of the Chinese dude that they were growing his new nose on his forehead.
Yeah, I remember that too. That's right.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with these nasal tissues?
Well, he needed a replacement nose. That's why they were growing it, but I don't understand why they were putting nasal tissue into her spine. Well, let's see if this video plays. It might. Maybe. Should we do music? Here it comes. I don't know what that song is. I'm just making it up. Come on, play.
Hopefully it won't be a commercial.
Probably.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. Hurry up. Let's go. We're going to cancel in a minute.
Wait for it.
Jeez.
Wait for it.
I could have gone and gotten a cup of coffee and come all the way back by now.
It's 7 a.m. and Steve is already thinking about tomorrow, which is
one that I can't even mute.
I hate that.
There, I just muted him, and now he's all choppy.
Boogers help with spinal growth.
Yeah, I guess. The mucosa.
Mucosa.
Or Mr. Potato Head.
God. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, this is a pretty mangled looking nose. All right, where's the volume now? It's like they're punishing me because I stopped the music. Do you hear me? It's not playing, and now that all the volume stuff is all grayed out because it's mad at me that I didn't listen to the commercial.
They're going to start doing that, I bet you, in no time. You know,
they're going to start projecting that shit directly into people's brains is what they're going to do next.
My friend, you know, when I was gone this past weekend, anyone who was in chat saw me come in, and I actually was a non for a little bit there. I don't know, I kept getting logged out of chat. Is that happening to anyone else?
Huh. I've heard people...
Yeah, it wouldn't let me in. It said I didn't have an account. And then it would keep shutting down every minute. If you didn't do something within a minute, it went to black screen. And I had a hell of a time getting in.
Yeah, I didn't have trouble getting in, but I couldn't stay logged in. So I had to keep coming in as a non. And so it was probably about midnight or so. I was hearing some strange ass shit outside, like chanting. And,
really?
Oh, yeah. And the morning before, I had still been up at sunrise, and I was hearing this gong, like, every 30 to 40 seconds, just this gong rolling over the hills in the woods. Gong.
Oh.
And it was all at sunrise. So that was the day before. So then it was probably around, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock. Our last show had just finished. And I had the window open. I'm sitting there having a smoke, and I'm surfing, sharing, working on a website, whatever the hell I was doing. And I'm hearing this chanting, and it sounded like out of some Satan movie. I was like,
shit.
This is not cool. This sounds like every soundtrack to every, like, Omen film I've ever seen.
Oh, my God, are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Shitness around you, Jules.
Well, who knows? And then I thought, well, maybe is there possibly a mosque? I mean, it's Ramadan. Is that what this is? What the hell am I hearing?
But out there?
Well, and I gotta say, in the woods, it is not the most tolerant area of the nation. Just like in any backwoods area, if you know what I mean. So I cannot imagine that there's a mosque out there anywhere. Okay?
Right.
No, not gonna happen.
No.
Well, I had friends, though. They were on their ATVs, and they were going out towards the Trinity, and they came across this whole group of people sitting and chanting out in the middle of nowhere, no roads to it or anything, and they got the hell out of there. They said it was so weird to just come up on that.
Well, I mean, you have pagans that do stuff like that, but I'm going to say there was a large, whatever it was a large number of people. Because, I mean, it was it was, and I'm searching all over then, trying to find what religious cultures would be at midnight with, I mean, it literally sounded like probably 500 people all chanting.
That would not.
Oh, I didn't like that at all. I don't know what that was.
I'm not kidding, Jules. That would not surprise me, and the reason why it doesn't surprise me is because I've got them all around me here, too.
I don't know what
Really?
Yes.
What, you're saying
kidding.
Muslim?
No, Satanists.
Oh, well, I don't know what it was, but it was something, and there were no organizations that I could see on a map that were anywhere even near. I'd never heard anything like that before out there. That was a first for me, but I actually went outside with my phone and stood silent and tried to catch it with my audio recorder. And I just barely, I mean, you can just barely hear it, but I was online with my friend, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, well, it's in your head. It's those towers that they broadcast. I'm like, it's not towers.
But he couldn't hear it?
I'm hearing this shit.
Wow, dude, that's like a mind screw.
I was hearing it, so I don't know what it was, but I need to talk to my dad about it and See, he's usually not up that late. He's in bed by 8.
Amazing.
But, I mean, he couldn't hear it, even though you could hear it, and you were...
Well, not remotely, no.
Oh, but I mean...
I was by myself.
Okay, you weren't talking on the headset.
No.
Oh, okay, because that's what I was going... Well, that's really strange if we can't hear it, and you can hear it then. But, okay, I get it.
You could barely even hear it on the recording I made on my phone, and then, of course, my phone tells me that it does not allow me to send video files.
Of course.
Because I recorded it, I didn't really have anything that I knew of that I can record just in MP3, so I recorded it just with black, and it was totally pitch black outside, just with audio.
I mean, it didn't sound like Buddhist chanting or anything like that, did it?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I've never heard Buddhist chants either, but it was chanting. And it just went on and on and on. And I mean, literally, I finally crashed at about 4:30, and it was still going on. And that was from midnight. I mean, it was hours.
So, do you remember what day it was?
No.
What night?
No.
It may have been a satanic celebration.
I don't know. Hold on. Let me think. No, I don't. I was, came back Tuesdays. Maybe it was Monday night or Sunday night.
Interesting. It's interesting. Either way, it's interesting.
Oh, wait a
minute.
Scary. Hold on. I sent a text to my friend down there. But she was already crashed. Oh, you know what? It must have been Monday night to Tuesday because she had to go to work Tuesday morning really early. And so she was already sleeping. Yeah, it was Monday night.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know.
And the gong was the morning before at sunrise.
Oh, wow.
The same time as the chanting started the next night?
No, at sunrise. The chanting was, I heard it around midnight, Monday night to Tuesday. And the day before, now I wasn't up at sunrise Monday night to Tuesday, but the day before I had been, which was probably about, I don't know, it starts right around 4:20 a.m. is when you first start hearing the birds chirping. By 5 a.m., it's bright light outside. So it was right probably around 5-ish, I was hearing the gong.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, at first I thought, and that was Sunday morning, and I thought, oh, there must be a new church somewhere in the hills.
A church bell or something.
Right, I thought it was a church bell until, and because the wind's blowing, so it kind of carries the sound off or whatever.
Sure.
But then I'm listening closer, and I'm like, that's no church bell. And why is it going on now like an hour later?
Wow.
At sunrise. I'd be pissed if I lived in that town with that church. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
yeah, that
just woke me up.
Odd. That's very odd.
I don't know what that's all about, but I might have to, it's so dark there. I mean, there's no streetlights or anything, but I might have to take a car out and go cruising the hills next time I hear that shit and see if I could go find where that is.
I think I'd take an ATV out there instead of a car.
ATVs are kind of loud. I want to be stealth, honey. Yeah, that'll hide me.
They could be quite a distance away, too.
Yeah, I don't think
if you have water.
I don't think it was next to me. Well, not just water. I mean, sound carries on the hills.
Yeah.
That's true.
And that's, I mean, you're looking out as far as the eye can see, there's just hills. So
make sure you bring if you do that, make sure you bring your cell phone so you can record anything weird.
It was creepier than shit. It really was. If I can find a way to get, I'm going to have to maybe plug in the USB to my PC, and maybe I could suck that video off. But every time I do that, Verizon then says that they have to install software on my PC and then sync up all my freaking files. So I don't like to plug my phone into my PCs because they do a data dump every time I do that.
Do they really?
Yeah, they do. My notebook, absolutely. I haven't touched either of the machines out here because they're broadcast machines. I'm sure they'd love to get their greasy little fingers in here.
I even showed my tech when he got here. It's weird. I was sitting here and I shut down everything that might be communicating with the internet, like my antivirus, my Skype, and anything like that. And I shut them all down, all the processes, and I had very few going. And my internet connection was just constantly spiking.
All you need to do is if you totally disconnect your computer, like not even shut your stuff down, just like turn your computer off and see what your internet's doing. You know what I mean? Like, is there something else that is sucking your bandwidth that is not your machine?
No, I don't have it. You know, I don't have the smartphones. I don't have anything that I sync up. Nothing on this. On my
that you know of. That you know of. You know, I mean, you could have stuff in your house that you're not aware of. That was why my rocket scientist boyfriend from college was recommending that we build some sort of sweep device to be able to sweep your house and see what other frequencies we're broadcasting out and sending info.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
He's going to build me one of those. He can build anything.
Yeah, one of them that's just sending and receiving most of the packets. I can't figure out what it is, and it's doing it right now too. Is this one, and it says local get over here. It says local service and no impersonation. Isn't that weird?
That's weird.
I don't know. What is that?
I don't know. I have no idea what it is. My tech didn't either. And he goes, you don't have a smartphone or anything like that? And I went, no. And I shut my processes down to minimal just to run the computer. No internet. And it was just, right now, I'm on it now. But, you know, Skype, I shut everything off. And
I know, but like we act like we're surprised and we shouldn't be.
But yeah. But it's irritating. You know, I want to know who and where this information's going.
Well, how about me calling Verizon and they tell me that this data backup that it does every single day on my phone since the day I got it like 5 years ago, I don't have an account. And we can't figure out how to turn it off. And I talked to 3 techs and there's nowhere on my phone to turn that data backup off, yet I have no account and no one can tell me where my data's going to.
Yeah, same thing, huh? It's frustrating. I mean,
it's not frustrating because I know who's getting my data, which is why I look at my phone frequently and tell it to go F off.
There you go.
That's why you put things like shots of your ass on your phone. Or the dog's ass. I know, I do shit like that. Why not? I hope somebody enjoys it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that right now.
You know, get it up close and personal, up your nose.
And then they'll get you for sending porn over the
So what? Up close and personal nipples. Enjoy. I don't care. I really don't. What are you going to do? Sue me? Sue me for an offensive picture of something
that you weren't supposed to be looking at.
Right. Good, I hope you enjoy it. And I hope if I ever run for Congress, you publish them everywhere. I want them to.
Right.
I dare them to. Do it. You know, I haven't ever... Oh, look. Look, here's the mysterious WavePad sound editor out of the blue that just launches itself for no reason, too. That's been happening lately. I never even clicked on it, and it just bounces up, and now it's up in my tray. How nice is that? Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of my machine.
I hate these people.
Mm-hmm. I do too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you know, I have Windows updates even, because the tech goes, well, it's probably, you know, Windows or something to update, and I go, I have never updated my Windows in this machine, you know, since I got it.
But like I said, I don't have any even ounce of surprise that any of this is going on.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's one of those things that just irritates me. You know it's going on, but still when you look at it just...
Well, instead of being irritated, have fun with it. Like I said, tell them to go F off frequently. Show them pictures of body parts frequently. Make sure that you get an online friend that you can type 450,000 lines of chat.
Inundated.
I feel that I have done my part.
That's funny.
Choke the lines. Make sure it's lots of stuff that doesn't mean anything to anybody except for you.
That's right.
Completely unimportant stuff every single day. Do it. You know what? Because someone's got to go through that with a fine-tooth comb and then try and figure out if you actually meant something by it.
Right. Put in one word that would make them stop at it, and then
drink and be half intoxicated, and then type stuff. That's even better.
And I can't type for shit if I drink.
Or use your smartphone.
The last letter of a word if I'm lucky.
Or use your smartphone, so like every other letter is the wrong letter, and then correct them one letter at a time, like in line. That's the other thing that's kind of fun.
That's funny.
Yeah, 425,000 plus lines of code of saying F U NSA. How's that?
I like that.
I do too. And if we all did that, holy shit, we'd break the machine.
Right, and then they'd have all this data taking up all this space.
That means nothing. Exactly.
That facility in Utah would get so hot it would catch fire.
Exactly. And then they would have way more shit to sift through that they'd be like, oh my God, what does this shit mean? Nothing.
Why do I have to go through this?
Nothing. And you know what? It's just late night babble. It means nothing. All right.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So, Mr. Brandon Turbeville, I believe he's online doing an interview right now. He said, hey, you can't be competing with me. He wrote a story yesterday, which this one happens to be 7 pages long and very detailed. I encouraged him also to put out a short version for people who seem to have attention deficit disorders because this is highly important. It's something I begged him to do a story on, and he did, so I'm very excited.
Yay.
Brandon put out a story yesterday, and I believe the short version is coming out today, titled, Is Monsanto Contributing to the Rise in Mass Shootings? I think I've talked about this before, he introduced us to Dr. Yolanda Lucier, who was the 50-year, I always want to call her a clinical psychologist, but she was a prison psychiatrist, who was the woman to discover the cytochrome P450 enzyme depression, and these people who had never had any violence ever in their history, when they did the genetic test swabs of their cheeks, she found out that every single one of those people that had had violent episodes on SSRIs had the suppression of the cytochrome P450 enzyme. And then, I don't know, a year and a half later, I've read the study multiple times. A study came out showing how Roundup, glyphosate, suppresses the cytochrome P450 enzyme. I was like, wait a second. That means our GMO foods are making people who take SSRIs be violent. And, right, we have all these people putting out stories that are going, duh, wonder what all this violence is happening with these SSRIs. Well, there is a connection, except no one put it together. So Brandon did a huge story on it. And I think this is probably one of the most important discoveries, and nobody seems to care that there is a direct connect between these two. So I'm hoping that this story goes freaking viral.
That's awesome.
Too.
Yeah, but like I said, this first one is 7 pages. It is extremely detailed. And America seems to have a problem with reading anything that's more than like 2 sentences. So I'm hoping that somebody gets what this means. I'm going to read just a little bit of this. I told him I would. In January 2013, this is from Brennan. This is the beginning of the article. I wrote an article entitled, and yes, this was the story that got me to meet Dr. Lucier. Psychiatric drugs, school violence, and the big pharma cover-up, where I discussed the importance of the CYP, which stands for the cytochrome, P450 enzymes on the metabolism of pharmaceutical drugs and the potential for adverse effects of those drugs if the cytochrome P450 enzyme was not functioning properly. Studies conducted over the last decade have clearly demonstrated a link between adverse reactions to psychopharmacological medications and underactive or underperforming CYP450 enzymes. This has caused some to wonder whether or not the recent uptick in mass shootings and the obvious link to many of the perpetrators and prescription drugs could be related to the performance of the CYP450 enzymes. additional research, however, is now causing more questions to be asked in reference to the connections that chemicals like glyphosate may have in the inhibition of the proper CYP450 performance and thus in the uptick in mass shootings. And absolutely, for those unfamiliar, and I mean, we've talked about this enough, so I don't think we need to really go through the cytochrome P450 enzyme family. They pretty much are responsible for regulating all of the basic metabolization in our bodies, and when they are not functioning, that one study actually lists off like all of these illnesses, and it pretty much reads like a list. Oh, hi, he's listening. Yeah, you want to come on? Hold on.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah, he's like, you want me to come on and talk about it? Yeah, if you're there.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
Launch Skype. You can come talk about it. Anyway, the list from that study actually reads off like a list of Western diseases. You know, all of these quote-unquote Western diseases that we have. Oh, he is online. Like diabetes and overweight and all this other crap, all could be traced back to the suppression of the cytochrome P450 enzyme. All right, here we're going to bring Brandon in.
Okay.
Wow, this is like a Friday event. The 2 Fridays in a row.
Yeah, I was just watching a video on glyphosate, and it was really, I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, and I think that it actually needs to be exposed more, because I could guarantee you that there's money out there that's keeping a lot of that quiet. Hey,
yeah,
Brandon.
and it goes back to GMOs,
Hey, Jules.
too. Hi.
Hey, we
Hello.
have Zori and we have Wendy out with us this Friday morning.
Hey, guys.
How'd your interview go with Power Hour?
Oh, went well. I just got off the air with them, and so I flipped over here to UCY, see what you guys were talking about, and you were talking about my article, so I thought I'd...
And we were making fun of you. No, we weren't really. So did you get to talk about this, or were you doing ISIS over there?
We did both. And we went from CYP to ISIS to immigration in 1 hour. So.
Oh, that's good. So have you gotten any feedback yet on this?
On the CYP article, I haven't checked. It's been a busy week. I think you were talking about just the CYP enzymes itself, right? When you brought me on.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the interesting things to me is that all right, so you got these enzymes that control, among other things, the metabolization of pharmaceutical drugs, and they do other things, but they control the metabolic process for pharmaceuticals. So if it's not working properly, if it doesn't process those pharmaceutical drugs, then essentially what you have is not only just a greater risk for toxicity, but you also have a greater risk for side effects. And it's kind of a misnomer to say that they don't function properly, right? Because Prozac is not a natural supplement. As I said earlier, this is not a milk thistle supplement. This is not natural. This is a pharmaceutical. So I don't really think it's fair to blame the enzyme. But they have this breakdown of various different types of the enzymes, whether it's ultra rapid, extensive, poor, or intermediate. So if it's ultra rapid, essentially the enzyme processes it really fast and gets it through the system. If it's a poor metabolizer, then essentially it builds up, right? It just doesn't process it fast enough. And I gave the example of if somebody takes 5 OxyContin, right? Somebody with an ultra rapid metabolizer could probably do that and be fine, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody with a poor metabolizing enzyme would die of overdose.
You know what, Brandon? When we interviewed Dr. Lucier the second time, we actually had quite an extensive conversation offline after we had done the interview, and we were talking about the horror of my pregnancy and after the fact, where they almost killed me with the painkiller, number one, and then the I don't even know what it was. The stuff they put into your spine.
Yeah, the spinal tap.
Yeah, and they could not
Epidural.
Epidural. Thank you. They could not understand why it had gotten all the way up to my nose and had caused me to stop breathing because they gave me the standard dosage. But my whole thing, and my mother has the same issue, is that we're very sensitive to drugs. We've always been. And so something that's normal for you is probably 10 times too much for me. You know what I mean? And that's what Dr. Lucier was saying. It sounds like there's an issue with the CYP450 enzyme.
Right, and the thing about it is they have a test. They could do this test, and they can tell what kind of enzyme you have. So this is not a problem that should happen. Like in an emergency, you can understand it, but if you're going to prescribe somebody a psychopharmaceutical drug, if you're going to prescribe somebody something else, this is a fairly simple test, and it's not that expensive to do. You could test, and you could avoid many of these problems.
Right.
So it's not something that has to happen the way it's. You mentioned Dr. Lucier, and she has actually a study that that's linked to in my article. It's called antidepressant induced akathisia. Well, it's linked in the article. Nobody's going to be able to write that down, but just go there and click on it. It'll bring you right to the article where she goes through the connections between the CYP450 enzymes and violent behavior and even in homicides and so forth with the CYP450 enzymes and psychopharmaceuticals and so forth. So it's the link is there, and it's not really a debated link. This is just science, right?
Well, they went after her too. She said for that. And she actually did genetic tests on a lot of those inmates, and every single one of them had the suppressed cytochrome P450 enzyme.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Again, this is a simple test. We can avoid this, but whenever somebody brings it out, they get attacked. Mm-hmm. And there was Eileen Danneman of the Vaccine Liberation Army. She even suggested that this could be a huge lawsuit against the psychiatric industry for failure to warn, because they're giving people these drugs and they're not warning them that they could have massive and terrible side effects from this stuff, and they're not even testing. Now, I did interviews with people when I was doing the first article. I went and talked to people who are in the psychiatric and psychological industries, and I asked them about the CYP450 enzyme, and I expected them to not know about it.
They do?
But they do know about it, and this is what was surprising to me, was that they, with some of them, I might have to say, it's the enzyme that controls the metabolic process. They go, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But they all knew that if that enzyme didn't work properly, and that there were processes within the body that metabolize these drugs, if it didn't work properly, you could have massive side effects, whether it's toxicity or just side effects from the medication itself. And they knew that this was something that you needed to look out for, and they knew that there should be a test. But still, nobody's being tested with it.
Right, and it wasn't that expensive, Dr. Lucier said, and now with this direct connection between glyphosate, a.k.a. Roundup, and the suppression of this enzyme, and we're all being exposed to that stuff every single day in our food.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that there are also clear links between glyphosate and the inhibition of the CYP450 enzyme. Now, they know it does that. They haven't done so many studies on that specifically and publicized them, but there are studies on it, and it's sort of an underreported. It's not understudied, it's underreported, I guess I should say.
Intentionally, I'm sure.
Yeah, because look, what is glyphosate? First of all, it's Roundup. It's Roundup. Monsanto owns Roundup, and it's on everything. I went through in the article. I think 80% of 80% of soy. I don't know. I got the percentages in the article, but it's an outrageous percentage of the food that we have: the corn, soy, cotton, canola, all this stuff. Most of it is genetically modified, and a lot of it is Roundup resistant. So when they create Roundup resistant crops, instead of dousing it one time, they douse it 20, right? Because it's not going to hurt the plant. It's going to hurt you, but not the plant. And that's okay, because that's the bottom line. And so you have triple, double, triple, quadruple the amount of Roundup that you would get on these plants. You get Roundup-resistant weeds, and they pour even more Roundup on it. So it's Roundup. The food is full of Roundup. So with all of that food being contaminated with Roundup, which suppresses the CYP450 enzyme, and you throw all that stuff out into the food supply with the average American eating whatever crap they're told to eat or whatever they can afford, then you have the potential side effects of that contamination on the CYP450 enzymes of people who are taking psychopharmaceutical drugs.
Right, which is like 70% of the U.S. population, isn't it?
Which sounds like the zombie apocalypse to me.
Yeah, sure does.
And I've been saying this for a long time.
And so there's no wonder why you see so many people who are on these psychopharmaceuticals who are going out and committing mass shootings or nailing their dog to the wall or some gruesome outrageous violent act. And why it's no wonder you see this. You've got a contaminant that inhibits the CYP450 enzyme, and it's ubiquitous in the food supply.
Right.
And the drug itself, the Prozac, the different psychopharmaceuticals are almost becoming ubiquitous too. So it's a disaster that's and it's not waiting to happen. It's apparently happening right now.
You got to wonder too. A lot of the Roundup is ending up in our water supply. Number one, just as runoff, but number two, they're also finding that these pharmaceuticals are ending up in our water supply coming from the toilets, you know what I mean? And the runoff.
Yeah.
It's not being metabolized fully, so we're getting double doses now.
Well, there's also this study. It's called it's differential effects of glyphosate and Roundup on human placental cells and aromatase. Right, that's just the title. It's linked in the article. And what's interesting about this is that they found that that glyphosate is capable of disrupting the CYP450 enzymes at concentrations that are 100 times lower than what is used for agricultural purposes.
Oh, no way.
So not only are you being doused with Roundup, you're being doused with 100 times the amount that it takes to disrupt the CYP450 enzyme.
Wow. And then, of course, once that enzyme is disrupted, you become more and more sensitive to the drugs.
Yeah, because it builds up toxicity.
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's nuts.
That's scary.
It's horrible.
So, Brandon, I hope you start a fire with this article. Have you shot this over to Dr. Lucier?
No, not yet. I've been incredibly busy, but I will.
Yeah, you definitely should. I would love to touch base with her again. She was such a lovely lady. And I don't know what happened to her. Actually, I still see her on Skype coming up and down, but I have not received any type of communication from her.
Well, I'll try to contact and see if I can put you guys back in contact.
Yeah, she was really great. Now, in regards to something else you've been working on, 3 interviews later, and I'm going to hack away at that today and see if maybe I can boost that audio just a little bit. But why don't you give everybody a heads up on your show for Monday?
Yeah, this has been the hardest interview to do, and it shouldn't have been. But I've done an interview. It's recorded now, and it's going to be played on Monday night, 9 p.m. here at UCY. And I've done an interview with Gabriel Batarse, and he is a Palestinian man. He's 82 years old, so he lived in Palestine before the Israelis had their little Israeli state set up. So he was there when they came in and kicked people out of their homes. In fact, his family was kicked out of their homes, and he was driven from city to city by the Israelis and eventually had to go to Egypt. And then he came back years later to try and stay home, come back home, but he couldn't because of the situation there. And he essentially gives his life story and he gives his opinion on the Palestinian-Israeli issue. And toward the end, I asked him to speak to a lot of the Christians who consider themselves supporters of Israel, and I'll just leave that for Monday night when people tune in. I apologize for the audio. The audio's not good, but we both had to jump through a number of hoops to get this done, and it's the Skype wouldn't work, the recorder wouldn't work, and we just had to do other means to get it recorded. But if you listen hard, you'll be rewarded for hearing what he's got to say, and hopefully it won't be too bad.
And this was the third time you've tried to get the interview recorded.
Yeah, this was the third. Well, it was the third time we actually sat down and went through it. This is not the third time that we planned to do it.
Right.
Many more times that we tried, but this is the third time that we actually did an interview. But this time it actually recorded.
Right. I know you sent me the one, and it was just you. There was no other channel.
I know, and I have no idea what the reason was, but maybe it was divine intervention because the Israeli-Palestinian issue wasn't in the news at the time, and now it is. So
that's true. So I'm going to try and boost that audio up. I don't know. I was playing with some noise removers and stuff last night, so I'll see what I can do with that. But I'm really excited to hear that interview because it is extremely timely. And I just see, here's the thing that gets me. Maybe you have an opinion on this. There are two sides, obviously, to this coin. There are the people who still buy into the Israel is great and Israel is a victim. And then there are the others that have actually seen what's really going on and are going, man, they're killing children, and I still have friends. I brought this up mistakenly in conversation a few weeks ago, and the first thing I got was someone stopping, looking at me, and going, "You're anti-Israel?" Like, are you kidding me? How is it possible that you could even be like? I mean, this dude totally acted like he was offended because I managed to say something bad about Israel.
Oh, I know. It's epidemic. It's especially here. It's to me, and one of the things you'll hear in the interview is that Palestine. A lot of people. I've had people tell me a number of different things, what their perspective on Israel. And it's usually wrong, but when you find out that Palestine was a pretty nice place before the Israelis come in terms of its living standards. Right, it was a modern place, and a lot of the Middle East was. If you look at some of the before pictures, before
like Libya.
Yeah, before we got involved.
And Iraq. Yeah.
Right.
Well, Afghanistan even had some pretty modern, buildings and schools and roadways and stuff like that. I mean, I'd put 1930s Palestine up with 2014 Detroit any day of the week.
Oh, no kidding.
So you've got this place that's modern, and they've got Christians and Muslims and Jews who are living together and going to school together, and they're not killing one another. And there's occasionally a controversy or something, but this is not civil war. And what's funny is so many of the Christian Zionists will come out and send money to Israel. They'll support Israel, right or wrong. And there were 30% Christians in Palestine before the Israeli state, and now it's like 2%, 3%. So isn't it funny that the Christians will send money to support something they see as Christian, but it's run the Christians out, and they wonder why there's so many Muslims in Palestine who hate Israel. Well, the Muslims are the ones who stayed. That's the reason Palestine's largely Muslim, because the Israelis ran the Christians out. So. Yeah,
they live in harmony like that in Iran too.
Well,
side by side, Christians, Muslims. I mean,
it's not as bad as the Fox News media will portray it. It's not as good as other media will portray it either. So I mean, Iran is not the greatest place in the world. I mean, Syria though. I mean, Syria wasn't a perfect example of a place where they had. Christians, Muslims, Jews, and then even in the Muslim groups they had Shia, Sunni, Druze, Alawites, all of them living in peace until we funded death squads to go over there and kill everybody. So,
right.
Again, It's funny. Religion's a funny thing. So many Christian conservatives supported the war in Iraq, and that's why there's very few Christians in Iraq now. They're either dead or they've had to move somewhere else. And this is the same situation in Syria.
Now, speaking of Syria, so you did an update on the whole ISIS thing. Did you happen to see that we were now sending some sort of anti-tank missile defense things over to they were calling them the rebels in Syria? But I mean, that is ISIS, right? The rebels in Syria are the same rebels that are now completely decimating Iraq, correct?
Will somebody find me a moderate Syrian rebel? I've been looking for 3 years and I haven't found one yet. There may have been one in the first 3 days, but again, he's either dead or he gave up a long time ago. The Free Syrian Army is what is being presented as the moderate rebels, and I guess you call them the moderate cannibals. I guess they cook the human heads before they eat them, I guess.
What?
I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic, but the idea of calling them moderates, like once you start massacring men, women, and children because they won't convert your silly religious belief, then I don't think you're moderate. I think the term moderate can go out the window. The Free Syrian Army, they had this commander, Salam Idris, and he's gone. He's not even in Syria. I think he's in Sweden or somewhere. Or no, maybe he's in Qatar, but his number 2 is in Sweden and his number 3 is in Denmark. They're gone. There's no Free Syrian Army. You're given these anti-tank missiles and so forth, these Tau missiles, they're going to the death squad. They're going to ISIS. They're going to al-Nusra. This is quite clearly where they're going. So when they announce this aid, this money, these weapons,
right?
They're announcing that they're giving money to the people that we're going to then use as a justification to bomb. We're giving money to ISIS so we can then bomb ISIS.
And basically put troops on the ground in Iraq.
Yeah, and this is the delineations between the groups, ISIS, al-Nusra, the Islamic Front, all of this, it's just crap. They're all the same groups. You see, they're all organized by the Gulf Cooperation Council. They're all controlled and armed and funded by NATO intelligence agencies. But because they're fanatics, because they are mental deficients, whenever there's even the slightest religious debate or disagreement between the two, they start killing each other and say, "Oh, we're the Islamic Front now," and then that group of 100 people has a disagreement, and now 20 of them break away and say, "Oh, now we're the Islamic Jihad Front," and it's ridiculous. They're all the same group, but they're fanatics, so they kill each other constantly. That's why they're not afraid of these groups taking power in Syria, because they can never hold power, they can never govern. Because as soon as they gain power, they'll start killing each other, and they're a cakewalk for any other imperial power that wants to come through, or some big corporation that wants to come through with some mercenaries. So they're no real threat to NATO militaries and stuff and the imperial aims. But people like Assad, nationalists, they are a threat. So that's why they have to be overthrown.
It's like a vicious circle,
Hey, back about a week ago, Brandon, I don't know if you heard the show in the morning, but every time I read about one of these ridiculous name changes, it just reminds me of The Life of Brian, when they're all sitting there talking about, the different groups, the People's Front of Judea, no, the Judean People's Front, no, we're with all these stupid name changes, but then they're all like the same people. And it is. I mean, and then, of course, the State Department coming out with a memo, a PR memo, stating what the actual name is and making sure that they tell the Treasury Department.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Now, I saw a story yesterday. They had just announced, and I mean, we could have seen this coming 10 miles ago. ISIS has now gotten their hands on some nuclear material. Did you see that?
Yeah, isn't that funny? They've been gearing up for, the last time we talked on your show, I mentioned that they're gearing up this predictive programming for a massive terror attack in the United States of the nuclear variety. That's what I said. And, again, I'm not predicting these things, but, I mean, come on. We got Dick Cheney, Lindsey Graham. There's been a couple of others that have said that there's the danger of a nuclear attack for Charleston Harbor, the Beltway in D.C., all this kind of stuff, and we've seen the reports, all these media reports about the dangers of the Syrian rebels or the ISIS fighters in Iraq coming back to Europe and the United States with plans to launch terror attacks, and now lo and behold, they've got their hands on some nuclear material. Now I don't know if that material is good enough to make a nuclear bomb with. Some people are saying that it's not. But does it really matter? Because the headlines have gotten out and said
it's low grade, so probably a dirty bomb material, sure.
Yeah, but then that's all you really need. Mm-hmm. That's all you really need. And again, I would tell anybody if this happens to just know who did it. Know that this is funded and orchestrated by the United States. And again, if I want to fly overseas, and I've got a name, just one letter spelled wrong in my name, then I'm not getting on the plane. If I make a joke at the airport,
right,
then I'm not getting on the plane. But these guys can go commit genocide in 2 different countries and fly across borders and go across the world, and then they can come home no problem.
Right.
It's just welcome home, guys. And there's just too many of us to surveil. That's the other excuse. The British said that there's just too many of them. There's dozens of them. And we can't monitor them all. We're too busy monitoring the entire population. We can't monitor the guys that actually might do terrorist attacks. They read all the emails, but not these guys.
Right. So, and they've fully admitted that too. They are taking every bit of information, every email, every Skype, everything. They're collecting it all, but they can't follow a few terrorists who they've actually been financing and giving equipment to. Right?
Yeah, and they've got them on lists, and of course they do monitor them, of course, because they know exactly where they are and what they're doing. They're just not going to do anything about it because this is the plan, right? These are their agents.
And I have mentioned to you also about that FEMA class that I took in 2006. They actually talked about this very scenario and mentioned that the nukes were going to come across the border with the illegals. So how interesting that while this is all spinning up, we now have this immigration crisis at the border as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to use that, and probably what in reality is going to happen is these guys just hop on a plane, fly coach back to the United States, and the CIA gives them a bomb and tells them to do something. But the narrative is going to be that we just couldn't find them, we had no way to, we're overwhelmed. They come back to the United States through the Mexican border, and then they build these bombs with the domestic terrorists, the militias that taught them how to build the bombs, and it's going to be a really well done narrative. I'll give them that. They'll have everything tied up, and it'll be interesting, and people will spend years freaking out. If there's a country left, which there probably won't be, but it'll be a well documented narrative. They're creative.
Yeah, they're very creative. And what got me was just recently, the 2006 was still the Dick Cheney Bush days, and the fact that then they hauled Cheney out of his closet to come make a few comments again, and that really was like the evidence that I needed for me to go, yep, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they had to wheel Dick Cheney out of his lair. That guy never looks any more human than he ever did, right? The constant snarl that he had. Right. But it's fun. Dick Cheney, Mr. National Security, he's constantly worried about terrorist attacks. So he gets up on national TV and says, wouldn't it be horrible if somebody just put a bomb on a flatbed truck and drove it out? So, well, don't give them any ideas if you're worried about national security.
Yeah. And then to add to all of this, I think I mentioned this to you yesterday. We talked about this right at the beginning of the show, this new story that comes out with Keith Alexander, former head of the NSA, and Chertoff now on the plate to potentially help Wall Street because of, these terror attacks. They're going to take bank accounts down to zero.
Yeah, that's, the preparations are being made for this type of thing to happen. And, we've got a number of fronts, right? We've got an economic collapse that's probably going to happen because the United States dollar is being walked away from by the Russians and the Chinese, and they're not planning to step away from the U.S. dollar. They're doing it, and they've already made deals. The Russians, the Chinese have already made deals, and that, good for them. It from our perspective, that's going to be devastating, but from the Russian perspective, it's the right thing to step away from the U.S. dollar, and it's the right thing to restructure their bank, their Russian bank, and so forth. So good for them, but we're going to pay the price for that.
Yeah, big
and
time.
Then we've also got the potential for world war. Even with Ukraine and Syria and Iraq and Iran and all these different and Israel and all these different potential conflicts overseas. But again, the terrorist attack issue, that's probably more concerning, because everything seems to be lining up. I mean, all you got to do is Google and see the number of reports where they claim that these guys are coming back to Europe to commit terror attacks and coming back to the United States to commit terror attacks. You can see it lining up. It'd be interesting if somebody sat down and collated what cities have been spoken about as targets. We got Washington, D.C., we got Charleston, and I think I think Obama actually mentioned New York.
He did, yes.
So we have wide open borders.
Yeah, that's funny too. We're all worried about, oh my God, these guys can come, back to America with passports. Well, hell, they can just go to Guatemala and they'll walk right in.
Yeah. Right. And for $1.30, take the train across Mexico.
Yeah.
That train just crashed too. Did
I
you
saw
see that? The
yeah.
death train, yeah. Yeah, with wide open borders, and we're worried. I mean, it's so ludicrous.
Yeah, so anybody who thinks that the U.S. government is actually concerned about terrorist attacks, I'm sure they're concerned about rogue attacks, but not the kind that people really expect. The FBI has had well over 100 foiled terror attacks in the last year, maybe 2 years. I don't know, at least the last year. And
they've created.
Yeah, and all of them were created by the FBI. All of them.
Or the CIA.
So, yeah, they're pretty good at it. They're pretty good at the false flag. So we're supposed to believe that they wouldn't do that on a larger scale, that it wouldn't go live, and go back to 9/11 and you can see how this stuff works. It never stopped. It started in the 70s with the U.S. intelligence agencies, and it never stopped, and it's still happening today.
I have to say, like, us running May Brussels here at 9, she has done more than any reading for me to illuminate how long this has really been going on for. I mean, I honestly, when I first started getting into this, I thought that a lot of this was just whack-jobby stuff, but I mean, it's well documented now, back, even going before the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, you go back in the early 20th century, and the Muslim Brotherhood was created by the British intelligence, and it's still run by British intelligence. Yep. They were created to sow division amongst the nationalists in the Arab countries. Right? They were created because the British were there, and they had their colonies, and there were nationalist parties like the Waft Party who wanted the British out. And so the British got this group of fanatics and idiots, and at the top they got these sort of corrupt bureaucrats, professorial types, if you get the idea, and they put them in charge of it. And their argument was, we don't care about the British, we just want a caliphate. So they fought with the Waft Party and so forth, and they gained power. And so the British never had to really worry about anything from the Muslim Brotherhood, and they're still controlled by British intelligence and U.S. intelligence.
Now here's a question. So most of the Muslim Brotherhood has been declared a terrorist organization now, correct? Where they're putting most of them on death row, right? In Egypt, yep. And the caliphate was just announced, was he not?
You're talking about in ISIS.
In ISIS, correct. But isn't that, I thought that was a caliphate for like all of the Muslims.
No, this is okay. ISIS is Sunni, and so they can declare caliphates all day, but the Shiites are not going to recognize it. The Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, they've been declared a terrorist organization. They are a terrorist organization, and a lot of them have been put on death row. And I'm not I don't know if there's been any executions yet. And it's going to be, I'll have to check up on that. I'll be surprised if those executions actually take place. But,
yeah, I don't think they have yet, but I know that just recently, again, I saw some more that they were convicted, but I don't think they've killed anybody yet.
Yeah, and so you've got, Egypt is putting, you read the American press and they'll say, oh, Egypt is cracking down on free speech and throwing journalists in jail. And they are throwing people in jail from Al Jazeera, but Al Jazeera is closely connected with the CIA and the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council. And they're a propaganda wing for the destabilization against Egypt. So, we wish that everybody could have just total free speech and so forth like that in a place like Egypt, and I hope that happens. But in a destabilization, when you've got a clear foreign agent, what are you supposed to do? Just let them sow discord and propagandize your country and destroy you, and then put in place the Muslim Brotherhood, a bunch of yapping animals like Morsi, who wanted to go to war with Syria and Ethiopia.
Right, and I mean, we directed him to do that. And the people stood up against him, which is why that whole revolution took place, correct?
Yeah, the overwhelming majority of Egyptians did not want the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood did win the elections because they were promising certain things economically and so forth. When they got in, they changed their tune and they imposed austerity and accepted loans from the IMF. So the people revolted again, and the second time was the real revolt. But it gets really convoluted because the American press is going to spin it as if it's a tiny revolt, that the Muslim Brotherhood are the victims, but they're not. They're the perpetrators.
And they were our creation.
They were our creation. The West, the British, and we still. We still control them, and there are connections with the Muslim Brotherhood upper echelons in the U.S. State Department. So, you remember Anthony Weiner in New York?
Yes.
Who can ever forget Anthony Weiner? His wife Hama Abedin is also closely connected with Clinton, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, I remember that.
Bodyguard, right? And she's connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. So,
I didn't know that. I didn't know she was connected to them, huh? Well, I saw also, getting back to Morsi, on Facebook, there was a posting when he first was arrested. Apparently his daughter had posted that the photographs that they were showing of Morsi in jail were not her father. And that was the last I ever saw that. That was one round, and I never saw another thing about that. So,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they keep, for instance, his trial, they keep announcing the trial and then changing the trial date, and they do that because they know there are going to be riots. So the guy's probably going to be in prison for a long time. He's a criminal, so fine. But, I doubt very seriously that Morsi will be executed.
Right. And who knows? I mean, they even questioned about bin Laden and whatever. I mean, if these guys were some sort of asset, they may make it look like they got arrested or whatever, but they're not necessarily the ones that are there.
Yeah, but with this, I mean, Morsi was arrested by Sisi, who's the now president of Egypt. So, I mean, it's all indications that he is in jail.
And Sisi was the former general, right? The commander of the army?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Who had been in charge before, during the first coup.
Yeah, and he gave up power, but when Morsi won the election, so he stepped down and he let Morsi take over. But after a while, it became clear that he couldn't do this anymore. Morsi was going to commit the Egyptian army to war in Syria and to war in Ethiopia. And on top of that, they were removing the subsidies for oil and food and that sort of thing, which was going to, I mean, the Egyptian economy is terrible anyway, so they were going to remove the subsidies, which would have driven heating oil and cooking oil through the roof. And people couldn't take that. They couldn't survive that way. It was going to be the dissolution of the Egyptian state if you didn't step in.
And now you don't hear much of anything out of Egypt. Are they doing okay? I mean, for a while they were headlines, and now I haven't seen much of anything at all.
Yeah, from what I understand, and I do need to check back up on it, is that there are still protest and rights and so forth. But the Muslim Brotherhood has been cracked down upon pretty hard, and that it's gotten more quiet, or quieter, I guess. And but there's still some violence occasionally. But I need to check back up on that.
Now, how about lastly your assessment on some of this potential bioterror with the oops, we forgot the smallpox in the closet. Oops, we didn't realize that was anthrax that we were shipping all over the place. Also, the Ebola that it's out of control. This is the worst we've ever seen. And then I saw a story where some people got off the boat or the plane in Italy, and then all of a sudden, oh no, it's all under control, and no, there isn't anyone in Italy. Now I've seen a few things where potentially there could be people coming over the Mexican-U.S. border that had come through Africa as well. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's quite possible, and when you look at the, first of all, I think that there could be gearing up for a bio attack to go along with this, whatever they're planning next. But in addition, you talk about the border, you have people coming over, and they make it sound like if you point out that a lot of them have disease, that you're some kind of racist or something. Well, a lot of them do have disease, but they put them in processing centers or something, and they stick them in basically chain link cages. And then they look around and say, "Oh my God, they have disease. We didn't know. How did they get disease?" Well, that's what happens when you stick people in cages together on top of one another. They get disease and it spreads. People have known this for years. And then when you release them and you send them out into the community, it spreads some more. So sticking people in pens and so forth doesn't do anything for their health. This is why we had the spread of disease to begin with. Why we had all those plagues. And during the Industrial Revolution, is because people were stuck on top of one another. So they're creating that situation as well. But yeah, I mean, the missing smallpox. The smallpox was missed. I don't know the details of that, but I mean, come on. If it's an accident, then why doesn't somebody get fired for it?
Right.
Exactly.
When people make mistakes at work that are big mistakes, they lose their jobs. If you work at a store and you lose $500, you're probably going to get fired. But I'm being told that if you lose smallpox, nothing happens.
Right. I mean, I've been talking about this forever. It's just even beyond the smallpox. Why are none of these people getting fired? I mean, in the real world, if you don't do your job, you lose your job. Period.
No accountability. That's
none.
all there is to it.
None.
Well, this is like when the Department of Homeland Security was staging these mock terror drills in airports and stuff, which is really just to scare the hell out of people and let them know that at any moment they could be blown up by scary Muslims.
Yep. Fear.
Yeah, they had these terrorist attacks drills, and they lost the explosives.
Oh, no way. I missed that.
Of course they did.
So there's two questions that come to mind. Why does somebody get fired for losing the explosives? And second question is, why the hell were you using real explosives? It's a drill.
Right.
Exactly.
It's a box of rice. You don't need real explosives. So, this kind of stuff, if people are really this stupid in government and in big corporations and so forth, I am convinced that we would be rolling around on the ground and throwing feces at one another. We could not have a functioning society if people were this stupid in high positions. The stupidity is the people who believe the excuses that we're told, right? That we just accidentally lost some smallpox. Oh, we can't surveil the terrorists. Oh, we didn't know that we were giving billions of dollars to ISIS. Oh, come on.
Right.
Yeah, and I even remember back a few years ago, Madison had done an article where the NDAA had first been inked into law, and then shortly thereafter, Obama had come out and said, "Well, you're going to be deemed a domestic terrorist if you support terrorist groups, except for this terrorist group who we're going to send into Syria." I mean, they had actually come out and said that it was legal to send that terrorist group some money, and I mean, honestly, Brandon, you're so right. I talk about this all the time. We must be really stupid. And what is it that, Is it the television? Is it really the TV that is
Fluoride,
programming
the TV, it's all of
people
it.
to believe this garbage? And why do we not believe it anymore? I mean, it's pretty easy to see now, and any half-thinking human being should be able to see what a load of garbage this is.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's not just all of that stuff, and people have been believing really stupid things for millions of years. But the uptick and this borderline, what was that movie? Idiocracy level of people. Yeah, it's from the TV. It's from the culture industries that have dumbed people down. It's from the public education that's dumbed people down. But mainly it's fluoride, the chemical attacks, the vaccines, the GMO food.
I mean, your brain can't function with all these poisons being put into it. It's hard to make the body function properly, and that includes your brain and the way you evaluate things.
Yeah, I'm convinced if you believe in a Darwinian evolution theory, and I don't, but if you took somebody from 1750 and 1850, 1950, and then 2014, and you looked at it, you'd be convinced that we're devolving. And this is not by accident. You get, again, all of these things put together are making for a really sad population, on a number of different levels.
There was a story out of Activist Post from a few weeks ago that we had made it about halfway through before the show ended, and we still got to get back there. But it was all about mind control and some of the experiments that DARPA had been doing, as part of the BRAIN project. And the article hit 4 or 5 different experimentations that DARPA was working on, and one was with the rats and being able to remove and insert memories, and they were utilizing electroshocks to create fear in the animals to be able to remove the memories and then replace new ones. And I found that very interesting with just this whole fear drum. And I mean, if you remember 9/11, there was one thing that proved to me that this absolutely could work. And I mean, my family lives in New York, okay? So if there was a Category 5 hurricane coming in, I definitely would be paying attention. And I got to tell you, it was probably 5 or 6 years after 9/11, after someone pointed out to me that there had been a Category 5 hurricane coming in the day before 9/11 happened, that I remembered it. I totally did not remember that event.
Yeah, the same thing. I didn't know about the hurricane either until years later.
Yeah. Except that, shouldn't that have been headline news?
Yeah,
especially for New York City, New York, you'd think. Yeah. So, that really convinced me that there was something going on, because how could I not remember that? I mean, my sister is there. I would definitely remember if there was. I would have been sick, worrying. I would have been telling her to get her ass home.
And it's in September, too, so hurricane season's starting to wind down. And so it would be an even bigger story.
Yeah, it was very odd. But, well, hey, Brandon, so I'm going to get that cut tonight for you. Like I said, I was messing with it yesterday, and we're going to try and get some of the, see if I can make the sound any better for that Palestinian gentleman's interview on Monday. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I don't know, maybe he'll do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, if he does, I'll get a better mic. But it's I really wish people would tune in, and it's one of the better interviews that I've done, one of the more powerful interviews. And I hope you can get past the sound and just listen to what he's got to say, because this guy's not somebody who read a lot about it in a book. He lived it. This is his life. This is his history and experiences, and it's important to hear it. Yeah, and I mean that is where the real history comes from. 1984, things get changed after their hearsay, Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Brandon. Well, we got about 2 minutes here to wrap up before our music kicks in.
When is that on again, Jules?
Monday night, first run is 9 p.m. Eastern, and then we do a rebroad on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern for Truth on the Tracks with Mr. Brandon Turvell. All right, I'm going to dip out, guys, and... Thanks for letting me come on this morning. Yeah, Brandon, have a great Friday, and I'll catch up with you once I get the show cut. Okay. All right, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thanks. All right, take care. All right, that was awesome. So that was a couple Fridays in a row We get the Tuberville
Cool.
update. Yeah,
That was
thanks.
super awesome.
Thanks, Brandon. So, maybe Monday or Tuesday we'll start hitting that the mRNA vaccines where we kind of left off yesterday. One of the things I just wanted to mention quick here before we wrap the show up is that while I was poking around here yesterday, I came across a story, another DARPA story, but the whole mind control thing. And hold on. I'm looking to see if I still had that open because I dropped a blurb in the chat. They were talking about the Brain Project. Here it is. The Brain Project and their new brain implants, right? With this whole memory thing. But check this out. This is what this says. mRNA proteins and brain neurons. Currently, we know that memory formation starts with mRNA proteins that cause neurons to join, resulting in creations of memories. Now, this whole new generation of universal vaccines that they've been working on, right? DARPA was funding those European drug manufacturers to work on these new, funky, go in and reorganize your DNA type vaccines with mRNA. So how interesting that mRNA is also responsible for creating neuron connections to make memories. So
that's really scary.
It is memory. It is scary because here's the thing: they could give you these vaccines saying, "Oh, we're going to save you from the pandemic," but it's also going to rewire your brain.
Right,
Yeah.
and you won't be the same person. You won't be you
And you won't
anymore.
remember any of the bullshit, and you'll just
my
love
God.
this New World Order. I mean, I
Yeah,
gotta
let's-
tell you guys, I almost shit myself when I saw this, so I need to dig into this more this weekend to see what else I can find, but that was not a good discovery.
I mean,
Considering
that's always
the
been my
Brain
biggest
Project.
fear. It's
Yeah.
for them to get control of my mind.
Yeah, and the fact that the vaccines and memory creation use the same proteins, that's not a coincidence. It cannot be.
No.
It cannot
Wow.
be.
Oh,
So,
man.
all right, now we just left this Friday rocking.
I am rocking too. I just noticed it. Oh,
Not in
damn.
a good way. All right, we got about 10 seconds left, so thank you, ladies, for being on today. This was awesome. Friday is always great.
Yeah.
Brandon, thank you very, very much for calling in today. Listeners, everybody, crack something tonight because I think we're going to need it.
Yeah.
And there we go. All right, I'll be around this weekend, so I'm sure I'll see everyone in and out and chat. Who knows? Tomorrow night, make sure you stick around for After the Last Cup. Lots of good radio tonight. Everybody have a great weekend.
Have a great day, guys.
Take care.